Now, she has made the world's 50 most beautiful people list twice, but Sandra Bullock didn't look great when she left home in New York last week. Is this as a result of plastic surgery gone wrong?
Well, top surgeon Dr. Patrick Treacy joins us now to tell us more, along with a list of other celebrities who may have gone one step too far in the pursuit of physical perfection. Good morning to you, Patrick.
Morning, Anne. How are you?
Where do we start? OK, Sandra Bullock. This is all about basically celebrities or people in the limelight who are under pressure to look beautiful and have taken it one step too far, ultimately.
Sure.
And they're just getting carried away, really, aren't they?
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting. The picture on Sandra Bullock is showed in the Daily Mail, and it showed her with big sort of swelling on the left side of her mandible. And
that looks like a huge boil or something, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Now, the interesting thing is that this could be, to an extent, medical. It could be something like an
abscess,
parotid tumour, an abscess on a tooth or whatever. But I looked at the Oscar footage, and she had already starting there. And we think what could be happening is because she's got quite a sort of square jaw,
well-defined square jaw, hasn't
that somebody may have put in Botox to try and correct a condition we call bruxism. And as a consequence, if you don't go down with the needle to the periosteum and get the lower level of the masseter muscles, the muscle can herniate out through the top ones. And this is a common effect. Actually, I've seen somebody in London recently who had a very, very similar thing done by somebody who didn't know what to do. This is becoming a very popular procedure with Botox, particularly by Asian people. And in Dublin particularly, we do quite a number of Asian people who would have quite square jaws and who want to define the lower part of their face. When you originally inject in Botox, it gets smaller, and over a period of 2 or 3 cycles, and a cycle of Botox is 4 to 6 months, the muscle tends to atrophy and they get a very nice sort of defined definition on their jaw.
So if this was plastic surgery or Botox that Sandra Bullock was having, what would she have been trying to achieve? A softer jawline?
If it was done for that, a softer jawline, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and absolutely.
She is also in her mid now, getting on to late 40s. And she's at the peak of her commercial career. Now, there's not that many jobs for 35-plus women, let alone 40-plus women.
And she's just a baby very recently.
She looks extraordinary. But she's kind of coming to the end of what she can physically do as a leading lady, isn't she? So, so do you think that people in her position are prepared to take stupid risks?
Well,
despite the fact that you think that they have the best medical advice in the world because they can afford it.
There's an interesting thing that's starting in the west coast of the States, and I don't know whether it's going to go here or not, and it's called the zero face, and they reckon that everybody now is trying to look 36. People in Hollywood not only are marking their age down from 45 to 36, but people in their 20s are marking their way back up again to look 36 as well.
So 36 is the optimal age,
gone wrong.
is it?
Well, this is what they're saying, but
well,
having said that,
was the best. They were the best years because you're old enough to have sense and still young enough to enjoy it.
But they're including people like Heidi Montage and that within it, who I would have thought just had bad work done, and looked older after it.
We have a shot here of maybe the most. She's probably the most famous bad advertisement for cosmetic surgery there is Jocelyn Widenstein.
Okay.
This is what can happen.
Sure.
When you go
this
completely
is a very
bonkers.
interesting case, Mark. This started.
She must have some form of dysmorphia.
Oh,
Patrick.
I think so, absolutely. She found her husband in bed with a young girl, and to try and win back his affection, what she did was, because she knew he liked people with cat-like sort of feline structures, she wanted to get surgery down that route. She didn't win him, but she certainly won one of the most horrendous-looking faces, sort of in the business.
She looks like she's been mauled by a cat.
She does, actually. It's
and the sad fact is, and I was chatting to Noel earlier outside, he met her in New York recently, and she believes that she looks quite beautiful, and this, to an extent, is... and she spent $4 million achieving this look.
I was going to ask you, Patrick, is this figure correct, or am I seeing it incorrectly? $4 million.
Apparently, yes. She said multiple sort of procedures, and recently I read she got prosthetics in her infraorbital area, just underneath her eye, and it caused peripheral vision loss. So she's had damage to her.
So there's all sorts of knock-on effects.
Can I ask you something? I mean, you're a very reputable doctor, and like the top guys in America are all board certified. How could any doctor with a shred of professional integrity allow that to walk out of the surgery?
It's beyond comprehension, isn't it? And particularly, I'd say a lot of these people have psychological addictions, probably body dysmorphic disorder, and I agree with you. It is horrendous. Some of the people we'll be looking at later on. I mean, how.
Let's go to Jackie Stallone, who
Okay.
That's just bad, cheap surgery, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah, certainly somebody with no aesthetic eye. Yeah, this is horrendous as well. I mean, Jackie has had multiple procedures. Some
Is
people
the shot
say
on the left,
over 10.
Patrick, pre-surgery?
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
you know.
she's a quite
Beautiful
striking-looking woman. Yeah.
Absolutely. You know,
Of course,
so
she is
she's had
103, which doesn't help.
a brow lift, a facelift. She's had chin implants. She's had sort of her eyes done. She's had her lips done, and it's horrendous. I mean, to end up like that as well. I mean, you know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but I think the beholder, if the scalpel in this instance, certainly
it's just
doesn't know what beauty
shocking.
is.
Here's a woman who was 28 years old when she got her first surgery. Her name is Hang Mioku. I think she's quite famous in your business.
Yes, okay, well, this is actually a perfect example of somebody who has a psychological disorder. This girl was a beautiful Korean singer, and she thought, you know, sort of in her late 20s, she was beginning to lose her, I suppose, popularity, and as a consequence, she went to try and sort of get some surgery done. When she got the surgery done initially, they stopped wanting to treat her in Korea, so she went to Japan. And after a while, they diagnosed her with a disorder in Japan as well. And this is after about 14 surgeries. So they sent her back home, and when she was in Korea, she got a doctor who gave her some silicone to inject herself and some needles. Then he stopped doing that, so she went to get cooking oil. So she injected her face with cooking oil. Now, she reached the stage, unfortunately, when she stood at the end of the street. She was a very small woman, about 5'2" or 5'3". Her head was so big that they called her the standing fan because she was so out of proportion, asymmetrical. And it got to the stage where Korean television brought her on, and they had a national campaign to get some money to take the whole foreign substances out of her face. They took 400 grams out of her neck and 70 grams out of her face, and even to this day she still looks horrendous. But
And
this is
she had
somebody
done that to herself, Patrick?
She had done that to herself, absolutely.
Patrick, unfortunately, we've run out of time. There's a much larger issue at stake here, and we don't have time to discuss it now. You'll have to come back and talk about it again. Is that we still have no proper regulation in this country where this is concerned.
Absolutely.
So people can actually go and pay money and have this done to them,
Yes.
and there's no recourse one way or the other.
It is changing now because the national standards in Europe are making regulations within 27 countries that aren't mandatory by law, but myself and a couple of people are going to go to Vienna very shortly, and I think it's mid-April, to give Ireland's point of view towards this. And they've made a set of regulations that as yet aren't, I suppose, within legislation, but probably will move towards that.
Well, maybe we can get Dr. James Riley to come on some morning, and the two of you can have a discussion about it, and then maybe we'll progress the issue a little further. But for the time being, Dr. Patrick Treacy, thank you very much.